I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss?
So what's the deal now? Gary says triple homicide?
Yeah, looks pretty bad. Two of them are over here.
Osborne Cox? Yes. I thought you might be worried about the security of your shit.
Wait, let me explain something to you. I am not Mr. Lebowski. You're Mr. Lebowski. I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness or duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Okay.
All right. Welcome back, everyone, to another special episode of the Best Thing We've Seen podcast. My name is Flo.
And I'm Gabe. How are you?
That was fucking loud, dude. Holy
was
shit.
it?
Yes. Yeah, how you doing, man? How you doing?
Yeah. Tired.
Yeah.
I mean, we are recording this a little later than usual, but it's by no means late, but I'm still exhausted. How about you?
It's always a perfect introduction to any upbeat podcast. That's the podcast people want to listen to. Just people, two guys who are absolutely well, I feel the same way. You know, I'm tired. It's
I mean, we always kind of wake up gradually as the picks proceed. You know, as things get interesting.
Well, yes. I mean, we have to say straight off, we teased that we were going to do a special on a director. I always I never wanted to say that we're going to do it on directors, but then again, it's because it's giving away things, obviously, and we're doing it, obviously, as you might have. You saw it in the title. I don't know what I'll put in the intro. Probably just some film clips. I doubt I'll put some interview clips of the Coen Brothers in there. But we'll be talking about the Coen Brothers, obviously, and it's interesting because now having watched a couple of their movies that I was missing, it's like only Joel Coen really has director credit, doesn't he?
Yeah, but as far as I've read, they do switch it up from time to time. So Ethan Coen also does some directing, but I think he always gets the primary directing credit, Joel Coen, and Ethan Coen gets more of a producer credit or something like that. I'm not sure.
I do think that they direct every movie together, and it's just for, I don't know, whatever reason they have to list one. I don't know the reasons, but I think they do everything together, and it's just I don't know, yeah. But yeah, I mean, for a first ever director special, and I guess it could also be seen as a writer special. I mean, they have written some movies that they haven't directed either. But it's going to be interesting because I am not the biggest Coen Brother fan. And this is not to say that I hate their work by any means. I'm just not, because they are sort of one of the more, they're two of the more well-loved directors out there, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, from all the popular directors, I think their names get mentioned more often than others. I mean, there's always Quentin Tarantino, Steven Spielberg, but I think the Coen Brothers are up there as some of the directors that are widely known and appreciated.
Yeah, I think they sort of also burst the bubble of directors that actually everyone knows. People are going to watch the new Coen Brother movie. Even if they're not watching every movie that's coming out, they're going to seek out their Coen Brother movie. Go on.
Yeah, they just have also always an A-list cast. I mean, they have a lot of recurring actors and actresses, and I think that's also just a big plus for them because they always get some great people in the leads and supporting cast as well.
They really do carry over their actors, and especially in their early work, because, for example, John Turturro, I got to know him as Jesus in Lebowski. How do you pronounce his name? I think it's Jesus, right? I always thought it was Jesus, but it's Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus. But if you watch their earlier work, he's one of their main actors. And he's just a very tiny part in Big Lebowski. It's so fascinating. And there's so many other actors like John Polito and, so many actors that just keep coming back in every Coen Brother movie. And of course, Frances McDormand, who's the wife of, I think, Joel Coen.
Yeah.
And Buscemi. I mean, it would be so interesting to know who the actor is that has the most screen appears
I looked
in most
it up actually.
Yeah. Is it Frances McDormand?
Number one is Frances McDormand with 9 movies. also counting cameos.
Okay.
And I think number 2 is Steve Buscemi, and number 3 is John Goodman.
Yeah, of course, Goodman. Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating. Yeah. I mean, they're not like for example, Turturro and Goodman haven't been a part of some of the more recent movies, I think, right?
No, as far as I'm aware. I think John Turturro has also done some writing and some directing, hasn't he? So maybe he's shifted more to that. Because
I don't know.
Actually, I read somewhere one of his earlier roles, Barton Fink, he actually wrote his screenplay while playing Barton Fink, the screenplay writer.
He wrote what screenplay?
I forgot the name of it.
For a different
Romance and
movie.
Cigarettes, I think.
So right. Okay, I didn't know that. So he directed that too?
He did, I think so, yeah. He wrote and directed it, and the Coen Brothers produced it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Romance and Cigarettes, yeah. Interesting. With James Gandolfini. Look at this.
Yeah.
And of course, Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
He's in everything too. How about you, though? What's your, what do you think about the Coen Brothers?
Well, I knew a couple of their films, of course, the classics back in the day, and now I've also gotten a chance to see some of the films that were missing, and I always liked them. I never saw them as the greatest directors per se, but having rewatched a couple of things and now watched even more, I do appreciate them way more, and I do see their appeal, and I've certainly won even more appreciation for them.
Okay, interesting. I watched an interview after I saw one of their films recently, like an old interview, and they were because they're quite known to not do a lot of interviews, for not doing a lot of interviews, and they also don't really like film critics taking apart their movies and also interpreting things that are not really there.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll try our best not to do that, because I actually agree with that. I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate nothing more than people are over-analyzing certain scenes or whatever. But then again, the Coen Brother movies, they are always ambiguous and always take curveballs that you don't really quite expect. So they're movies that you sort of can dive into and analyze and discuss, but it's we'll try and not to do it too much. Not just say the movie's good and move on.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It worked for the last 55 episodes. All right, let's get into it.
I think it's your turn. I might be wrong there.
The last special was Cage, and I think I started that one. So
sure?
I think so, yeah. So you'll start this one. But maybe give your pitch, or tell everyone how this special episode works, and I'll look up who starts.
Yeah, of course. So this is a special episode. Every 4 episodes, we focus on an actor, director, actress, a person's career pretty much. And we do it in the form of a top 10 list. So we are going to count down the 10 best things that we've seen from that person. And then we are going to discuss the movies. And if I have something on my, let's say, number 9 and Flo has it on his number 2, we're going to postpone the discussion. And we're going to make our way towards the best thing that we've seen from that person, or people in that case, that we've seen from them.
Right. You're right. You're the one who started last week.
Yeah.
Last special episode, yep.
All right. So what's
it's
your...
my turn. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, what's your number 10?
I have to say, this was one of the more confusing lists to put together, and I'm not even going to lie to you. I put this together 20 minutes ago because because I did not get to rewatch. I got to rewatch one movie.
Okay.
And I did that today too.
Okay.
And I was I haven't seen so many of their movies in such a long time. And what I wanted to do for this special was sort of catch up on the movies that I haven't seen, which I did now. But it's so difficult to me because the movies that I may love more, I haven't seen in such a long time, so I'm going to need your help in some cases. I assume you watched 25 movies, so maybe you'll
not as much.
They don't
this
have
time.
as many, do they?
And there are 2 I'm missing, or especially there's one big one that I'm sadly missing, but I think apart from that,
they don't have too many movies. I mean, if we're including the writing credits, it is more, but we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
All right.
And I have to say that I wrote down 10, I wrote down every movie that could make my list, and I counted them and it was 10. So great.
Same here.
But I think we're going to diverge heavily, especially in the ranking. I think we'll have the same movies, but I think yours are going to be...
in the ranking, but I don't think we'll divert that much, just because there's not that much choice. in the movies because there's like 15 big ones, 16 maybe.
Yeah.
And yeah, but we'll see. Yeah.
We'll
so
see. Let's go.
What's your number 10? I'm excited.
My 10 is The Man Who Wasn't There.
That's the one I'm missing. That's a big one.
Is that a big one?
I'd say so, right?
I think that's one of the more small ones, no?
It's one of the bigger, obscure ones, I guess.
I guess.
You know what I mean?
I mean...
Like, Ladykillers is one of the... at the very bottom, and I don't know. Like you said, Big Lebowski is on the top, or
Sure.
No Country for Old Men, etc. I think it's one of... But just from the ratings, and I think also from Billy Bob Thornton's performance, which I've heard is fantastic in this one.
It reminded me so much of Fargo.
Yeah.
Like this, season 1 of not the movie. That's going to be interesting today as well. But his character reminded me so much. And I'm not going to, obviously, throughout the whole episode, we're not going to spoil anything.
Yeah.
Maybe if it's like Big Lebowski, I think a lot of people have seen that. But we'll try and stay clear of like heavy spoilers. And especially on the more obscure movies, or I wouldn't call them obscure, but maybe the ones that not a lot of people have seen, which I think The Man Who Wasn't There might be one of them.
Yeah.
And it stars Billy Bob Thornton, as you said, obviously Frances McDormand. She's going to be in a lot of movies today. And he's a barber. And it's basically him. It's so my brain is like connecting all of these actors now because John Polito, who's a part of so many movies of the Coen Brothers, he walks into his barbershop and sort of offers him an opportunity. He needs like $10,000 to open up a dry cleaning business. And Billy Bob Thornton is like this super quiet guy. Life just passes around him and he's just cutting hair and not saying much and just doesn't really seem very happy. And he's like, yeah, all right, I'll do it. I'll get 10 grand. Because James Gandolfini apparently has or his character, I should say, apparently has an affair with Frances McDormand, who is the wife of Billy Bob Thornton's character. And so he thinks that James Gandolfini has an affair with his wife and therefore sort of sends him a blackmail note telling him like, I will tell his character that you're sleeping with his wife. I hope that makes sense. You know, he's like pretending to be someone else. He's not saying like, I'm the husband, I know it, give me money. He's pretending to be someone else and just tells him, give me money or else I'm going to tell the husband that she's cheating on him, basically. And he's telling him, like, give me 10 grand so that he can use it to open up this dry cleaning business. And it basically just spirals downwards from there. It involves Tony Shalhoub, Monk, who comes in as a lawyer, which was a surprise to me. I always like to see him in anything else because he's just Monk for me. And he's also in another Coen Brother movie that we're going to talk about, I assume. But obviously recently in Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, it's so weird to see him in other movies or other roles than Monk.
Yeah, Monk is just so iconic, and I totally agree. Seeing him as anything else because he's so taken aback by everything and so controlled in Monk, or I guess also uncontrolled, and then he plays people who swear and do normal people things.
He's very good.
Blows my mind.
Yeah, he really does both rather well.
Yeah.
And The Man Who Wasn't There was also a movie that I wanted to watch for the Scarlett Johansson special because it does star a very young Scarlett Johansson. And it's also, I have to say, it's a black and white movie. I think the Coen Brothers' only black and white movie. But it did come out in 2001 or whatever. So it was a stylistic choice, obviously. I mean, they didn't mean that they didn't need to say that.
I think it's been since the 60s, right?
When was the change the color?
I mean, the first ones, I guess, I think in the 50s.
Right.
And
in that long? Wow.
Maybe even 40s, but I think 50s. And then back then, even in the Oscars, they got two different categories for best black and white film and best color film. And I think they changed it in the 70s, maybe 60s.
I'll take your word for it. I have no idea.
Could be very wrong. I'm guessing more than knowing anything. Yeah.
I mean, it's just it did not blow me away. And I have to say, this movie would not have made my list if I had found a different movie. It sort of, it was fine. It was absolutely fine. And it was,
okay.
I agree with Billy Bob Thornton. He's always good. He was good in this as well. It's just like a story that spirals out of control, which sort of maybe describes every Coen Brother movie.
Yeah, I thought the same thing right now. Yeah,
yeah.
Looking at my list, I think it's accurate for every single one.
I would agree. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's a crime sort of noir, I guess, because of the vibe and obviously the black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it takes turns that you don't expect. I mean, it's just. Yeah, you couldn't write this, but they did.
Is it also one of the more funny ones? I mean,
no, not at all.
Pretty much everyone each of them are funny in their own way, but some less than others.
This one, no. I mean, he, once again, in the beginning, and last week we had that Saint Maud thing where just in the beginning it had some funny elements. I did have to chuckle quite a bit because he's just so deadpan in his delivery, Billy Bob Thornton, because he's just such a dull guy. Gandolfini's over for dinner and he's just asking like, hey, did you serve in the Navy or in Nam, I think it was? Or did you serve at all or whatever? I can't remember now. Nam also, it takes place in a lot of people mention the Vietnam War in Coen Brother movies, so I'm mixing up quite a few things now, I think. But he just asked, yeah, they do, yeah.
You're right, yeah.
You'll get to
I can think of 2 other movies, yeah.
Yeah. But he just asked Billy Bob Thornton, like, did you serve? And Billy Bob Thornton just goes like, no, Dan, I didn't. And he just moves on. It's not like any old stories. No, Dan, I didn't. And he just moves on, talks to Francis again. Yeah, it's weird. What's your 10?
All right. Well, my number 10 is their very first feature film, which is Blood Simple.
Not on my list.
Oh, okay. I've seen this for the very first time this week, or I guess last week. And yeah, it's the very first directed feature film, and it's also the very first acting credit for Frances McDormand in a feature film. I guess they knew each other beforehand. I think they married the year before it came out. Or
I don't know, yeah.
Maybe they met while filming this film. But it's an older film. It's from 1981, and you can see this, and you can also see the 84, sorry. You can also see the lower budget. Yes. And it's very different from all the other films just because of that and how it feels and how it looks, because they were just getting started and still, I guess, discovering their style. But you can see a lot of Coen Brother elements just because of the absurd scenarios taking place. And the movie is about Frances McDormand in one of the leading roles, and she has an affair with another man, and that man works for her husband, and they have a falling out, of course, and that leads to her husband hiring a man to kill both of them, which of course spirals completely out of control because the man he hires is he's funny in how he acts, but he's just a complete fucking weird psycho as well, as pretty much everybody is in this movie.
Right.
And it's a very 80s thriller, I would describe it as. I think if you've seen other movies from that era, it will remind you of them. Would you agree? I mean, have you seen it?
Yes.
You do? Yeah.
Years ago. And I remember noticing the fact that John Getz is the main character, or the main character is played by John Getz, who is in The Social Network. So it was just
is he?
Yeah, he plays
who?
He's Mark Zuckerberg's lawyer.
No face at all. Yeah.
Well, he plays Cy, and he's opposite, obviously, Gretchen. We'll talk about The Social Network for a bit. We haven't yet.
Yeah.
In 56
Not
episodes,
yet.
we haven't yet.
Might happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, did you not like it at all, or?
It's like a 6 out of 10. I did not really care for it. No, I remember the ending quite vividly with like the windows, right? Where they like hand
It's a great scene.
Yeah, that was a great scene. Yeah, but other than that, I just remember a long shot of like John Getz running down a road in like this red darkness.
Yeah, I mean,
that's all I can remember. No,
the scene I think you're describing it, the whole thing around it, which I'm not gonna spoil because it's also one of the most intense and interesting scenes about the film. But I think it's like 14 minutes of nobody talking.
Yeah. I mean, if that doesn't sell you.
I mean, I have to say, this is at the bottom of my list, and I think this is on there because I haven't had nothing else to put on my number 10, but I still liked it. Yeah. But it's not on the same level as I think the following films are.
Sure.
So yeah, that's my number 10.
All right.
What's your number 9?
My number 9 is going to be much higher for you. I am pretty certain. It might be. What do you think it's going to be? I know it's going to
say anything.
My 9 is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah, it's higher.
Okay. What's your 9?
My 9 is Barton Fink, the movie we alluded to earlier.
8.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That's close.
Yes.
So it's also a movie that I've seen recently, a film that I've seen especially for this podcast, for this episode, and I I have to say, I'm so surprised of what it was actually about and what turns it took.
It's incredible what turns it takes, yeah.
Yeah, it's nothing I could have ever imagined, but it's about a screenplay writer who usually does stage plays for the theater and then moves to Los Angeles because they think he's great. The critics are raving about him. And he's convinced to do a bit of other work to earn more money, but he's a guy who's very much a fan of the common man, as he likes to say.
Yes.
And he's one of the most pretentious and hypocritical people one can imagine.
John
in a way.
Turturro, you think?
Yeah. Yeah, there's just this scene of him talking to John Goodman, who plays his neighbor in the hotel.
The start of the film.
Yeah. And John Goodman just says, "Oh yeah, I got a lot of great stories to tell and wants to tell him." So that's my point. The little people have stories to tell as well.
Yeah.
And just as soon as John Goodman wants to say anything, he just interrupts him and he talks about the theater and everything, and then just pretending to be a common man, but he really isn't.
Yes, I mean, to be fair though, John Goodman's character, you don't really, especially in the beginning, you don't really want to spend a lot of time with him. So he just like cuts him off and he's like, yeah. He's very creepy in that movie. Or not creepy, but like, yeah.
But they do become
friends,
in a
of
way.
Course. Yeah. And I was surprised as to how much of it actually just took place in the hotel.
Yeah.
It's just, him writing and sort of interacting with his neighbor, John Goodman, obviously. And Steve Buscemi is the bellboy? No.
Yeah, Chet.
He works, works at the hotel. And it's just such a disgusting hotel. It's unbelievable, man. The walls come down.
It looks amazing. Just the lobby looks really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the wallpaper is, that's disgusting, dude.
It really is. And again, just as the Coen Brothers do, this movie we said it before, it takes turns that it just, you could never think of. And I'm not even talking about like one of the more big reveals of the movie. It's just like simple things that you don't quite expect. And I think of one scene where he wakes up in the bed and just smashes a mosquito. I mean, what a scene that is.
For like 5 minutes, I was like, is this a very long dream sequence?
Yes.
What is going on?
I thought the same thing. Yeah.
Towards the end, what is real? What is imagined? What is just a metaphor?
Yes.
Crazy.
But I did love the interactions he had with the studio company owner and his henchman, also played by John Polito again.
With the shoes?
Yeah, with the shoes.
Kissing the feet? Yeah.
Beautiful scene. I love that guy. He delivered the dialogue so well, I thought, the main guy.
Yeah. And the producer guy, I think he was also nominated for an Oscar for that role. What's his name? He also stars in quite a few Coen Brothers movies as well, I think.
We're talking about the same guy now, or are you talking about a different one?
The big producer guy.
The one who kisses his feet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know his name. Let's look it up. Michael Lerner, I think, right? He plays Jack Lipnick. I think that was his name, right?
Yeah.
And the wife of the author he meets is played by Judy Davis, who was in The Ref, if you remember that movie from the Christmas special, the little gem I talked about with Kevin Spacey.
I'm embarrassed. Right. She plays his wife in that movie?
Yes.
All right. Okay.
And a completely different role. Yeah, I was very surprised to see her in Barton Fink. And also, obviously, Tony Shalhoub as Ben. Come on, let's do it. Ben Geisler.
Geisler.
I love that scene.
Geisler.
He just has his secretary who can't get his name right.
Yeah, that's
Geisler.
It's also one of his roles where he swears a lot, which is just so uncanny to see him do that.
Yeah.
A real prick.
Yes, absolutely. And Buscemi as Chet, we mentioned, and I think that's about it.
Plays the author, H.W.H.
John Mahoney.
Okay.
W.P.
W.P.
Mayhew,
yeah.
Yes. And I mean, yeah, it's the ending is quite something. It's just quite insane, that ending. And for whatever reason, it didn't bother me, because in other movies, those sort of endings where you don't quite know what's going on anymore bother me. And that's a theme throughout the Coen Brothers filmography that I've had issues with. They always end movies in a maybe not the most satisfactory way. When you watch it for the first time, you sort of have to digest those endings for a bit. But once you do, they get quite good. I found that to be the case on many of their movies.
Yeah. And interesting enough, because we talked about this on our last special, the film reminded me a lot about adaptation because it's got a very similar premise. It's about a screenwriter with writer's block, and I think it's also based on a semi-real story. Or it's inspired by them having writer's block while writing Miller's Crossing.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
All right. Your number 9.
My 8.
Sorry, 8. Yeah, which is Barton Fink.
Which is Barton Fink. Here we go. Yeah, it's your 8.
All right, let's move on. My number 8 is Burn After Reading.
That's higher for me.
Oh, okay.
It's a bit higher for me. The next one is going to be a lot higher for you again, and I have to say, there's a very good reason for this being so low on my list.
Okay, I'm interested.
My 7 is Fargo.
Okay. Yeah, it's a bit higher.
Okay. What's your 7?
My number 7 is A Serious Man.
Did not make my list.
Oh, okay. So we already got 2 movies that diverge.
Yes,
so I'm interested.
I told you.
What can take their place? I got an idea, I guess, but yeah.
What can take their place? Tune in next week.
A Serious Man, one of the more lesser known movies, I think, and also with the more lesser known cast as well.
Sure.
Not any of the regulars appear in this, as far as I'm aware, right? There's no Buscemi, McDormand.
I not at the top of my head. Yeah, I think you're right.
And it's also very different from the structure. It's got much less of a grand story as well. It's about a man who has a terrible life, pretty much. It's about a Jewish man and his wife tells him that she just doesn't love him anymore, and that she wants to marry another man, a man that he knows, and that she wants to get a Jewish ritual divorce. And he's just so overwhelmed by all of this, and then also gets a lot of other news and has to deal with his children and his work, and so much shit just going wrong, and even more. And so he employs the help of several rabbis.
Right, one played by Simon Helberg.
Yeah, from The Big Bang Theory. Yes. And he wants their help, but they all just answer in metaphors and stories that do not relate to his situation at all, while also having to deal with his brother who lives in their home, and he's quite antisocial. And it's just shit piling on, and him going in a bit of a spiritual journey as well, trying to figure it out, and why this is happening to him. Is God testing him? How can he interpret this? And nobody seems to give him any answers. And it's just such a weird movie, and that's why I liked it so much. And I got spoiled. A few scenes at least were spoiled for me because I had a lecture in my very first semester. We had a guest speaker from, I think, Judaism.
Right.
No, not Judaism. It's its own thing that you can study at university. It's Judaistic, I think it would be the translated title.
Okay.
It's the study of the Jewish religion, of anti-Semitism, of symbolism, and there's also a guy who does movie analysis about Jewish symbols, like, for example, in Planet of the Apes, or War for the Planet of the Apes to be exact, or a lot of Kubrick films as well. And he also did an analysis of A Serious Man, showing the different scenes of the rabbis giving him advice, which are some of the most entertaining scenes of the movie.
I would agree.
But did you not like it, or did you just not like it enough?
I would say it's a 6 out of 10.
Oh, okay.
They've had a lot of 6 out of 10s for me.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it stars obviously Michael Stuhlbarg, who I think we talked about before in the pod. He's like, he's nowadays in a lot of movies. Call Me by Your Name as Timothy's dad.
Yeah, Shape of Water.
Shape of Water, yes. I mean, many movies, many movies. And also it stars, because you asked the question if it stars any like regulars. It does star the guy who plays Lipnick, Michael Lerner. Yeah, which we just mentioned. I can't remember
who. Did he play in
He played
movie?
Solomon Schlutz. Solomon Schlutz.
Ah, right. Yeah, the guy who does some investigating for his property, right? Yeah. And also Richard Kind. I think I've talked about him when I talked about Red Oaks, the TV show on Amazon Prime.
Yes.
He's a very cool actor. I like him a lot.
Yes.
He's just fun.
It just, I saw this one late too, like maybe a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always like this weird little Coen brother movie that obviously it stars Stuhlbarg, and it's just, I would say that is not like a very big movie.
No, not at
And
all.
even though it's got like 140,000 ratings on IMDb,
Mhm.
but that's because it's a Coen brother movie. But it's one of the more less talked about, I guess. And a lot of people loved it a lot. But that was one of the Coen brother movies where I just didn't quite, it didn't quite grab me, and I couldn't quite follow along with everything that's happening. And I remember the ending shot, and I was like, okay, is that it? What is going on? As opposed to the Barton Fink ending shot where I was like, okay, what is going on? But I like it.
I get it. The ending is quite weird. And also just because he talked about how obscure the movie is for a lot of people. I've heard about this. I had heard about this movie before, but I didn't realize it was a Coen Brothers film until somebody talked about it in university, as I mentioned.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's a little gem, as you would say, that not a lot of people had heard about, but I have. So yeah, that's my number 7.
Right. We're now getting into the great ones for me. 6 to 1, I'm pretty stoked about.
Yeah, same.
And my 6 is going to be, I think, your 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you watched this last week, and I think you would have been just as blown away as I was, and even more. But it just made my 6, because it's not my genre.
Okay.
But it's yours. My 6 is Miller's Crossing.
It's not on my list.
It's not on your list?
I watched this for the special, but it's not on my list. It fought for number 10 spot, but I thought just Blood Simple just
I really
stayed
don't
in
know
my
you
mind
anymore.
longer.
I really don't know you anymore. It's like the theme of 56 episodes, and I keep saying it. I have no idea who I'm doing this with anymore.
I don't know who I am either.
Surely that's a movie that you should love, no? A gangster genre movie with, I don't know. That alone sells it to you, no?
Yeah, but I didn't like a lot of the characters. John Turturro's character, I think, was the most interesting one in the movie. Maybe Joe Polito's as well.
Right.
But I liked scenes of the movie, but the movie as a whole just felt a little forgettable for me, except for 1 or 2 scenes. So, and then Blood Simple just grabbed me a bit more and just was a bit more of a surprise for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I loved Miller's Crossing, and that says something if you know me, because I am not the biggest fan of Goodfellas, Godfather, what other, like Gangs of New York. I don't know why that falls into my mind right now. But
Irishman.
Yeah, Irishman, yes. So I was hesitant to watch this, but that movie worked completely for me, and I loved Gabriel Byrne as the main guy. I really did. This guy who always seems to be ahead of everyone else, but then again, he gets punched in the face more than any dude I've ever watched in a movie. And it stars Albert Finney, who I love ever since I first saw Aaron Brockovich, and obviously the first Murder on the Orient Express. The original, he plays, God, what's his name? Poirot? Hercules Poirot?
Yeah. I never know how to pronounce his name either.
Poirot? I think it's Poirot.
Maybe.
And it took me such a long time to figure out who he was in that movie, because, or in Miller's Crossing, because I had never seen, for example, in Aaron Brockovich, he's a bit more, a bit heavy, and he's quite thin in this movie, so it took me quite a while to put face to name, but I got there eventually. And I loved it, man. I love the interaction. He plays Leo, Albert Finney, I think, opposite Gabriel Byrne as the main guy. I forgot what was his name.
Jesus.
Was it Jesus too?
Tom, right?
It sounds right. Tom, who is just a guy with a gambling addiction, I guess. And it starts off that he owes someone money, and Leo wants to help him out because he's sort of the boss of the city or whatever, the unofficial crime boss, I guess. And he doesn't want his help. And then Leo has an affair with, I think it's Marcia Gay Harden, who I also never saw in a role in an early role before. I know her in more recent stuff. So
such as I didn't recognize her as far as I'm.
She has a part in The Dead Girl. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Haven't seen it, no.
But she's in a ton of things, dude. Mystic River.
Looked her up. Yeah, Into the Wild.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Ton of things. But in the movie Miller's Crossing, she then has an affair with Tom that obviously needs to stay hidden from Leo and blah, blah, blah. But I think it's Marcia Gay Harden's brother, played by John Turturro, right? And he's missing or whatever, Bernie, and or not missing, but I don't want to give away too much, obviously. But
well, it's kind of revolves around him, right? Because it opens with Joe Polito going to Leo.
Oh, Joe Polito
saying,
is so good in that movie.
Yeah, and he wants John Turturro's character dead because he thinks he cheated him, but Leo wants to protect him because he's sleeping with his sister.
Right.
And then it's the predicament. What is he going to do? Is he going to start a confrontation with the other gangs, or is he going to sacrifice the guy?
Yes, you're much better than me than
I watched it like 4 days ago.
I mean, I did too. Just you're better at these plot things. It just for whatever reason got me, and that whole scene in the woods at Miller's Crossing.
Yeah, that's like one of the best scenes. That and Joe Polito and his kids. That's just comedy gold in a way.
Yeah. Yep. Very good kid. Very good kid actor again. I mean, I'd be surprised, like, be interested in knowing like how much that kid actually acted or is that way in real life.
I hope not. Yeah. I hope not. But also interesting enough, the Dane who plays the henchman of Joe Polito's character was supposed to be played by Peter Stormare.
That makes total sense to me.
But he couldn't. Sadly.
Okay. Timing,
he was also supposed to be called the Swede, and then the name changed because of the actor.
Yeah. But the whole thing, how the movie ends too, I thought was pretty smart.
Yeah, the ending is pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, take my word for that movie. Because if you're not a big fan of gangster movies, as I am not, that one worked for me.
Yeah, and little fun fact as well. It's got a cameo by Sam Raimi, who's a friend of the Coen Brothers, because the first feature film that I kind of worked on, as far as I'm aware, is as assistant editors on Evil Dead.
Interesting. Yeah, I know they wrote movies together too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you just say that?
That they wrote things together? Yeah. No.
Okay, I spaced out there for a second. But who is he in Miller's Crossing?
When they burn down, like, not the maybe a speakeasy or something like that, all the police come up and they throw a grenade in or something, and then they start shooting at the place, and then a guy comes out and surrenders, and then he's just gunned down by a policeman.
Right.
Sam Raimi is that policeman with 2 revolvers going all Rambo on them.
Oh, he's the policeman.
Mm-hmm.
Do you actually see his face, or is that just like you
You see his face.
Interesting.
Complete face. He's dressed as a detective, so he's got a suit on, his full face is visible.
I didn't notice that, because I know his face. I should have known that.
I just saw it in the credits, Sam Raimi, and then I looked it up as well.
Right.
Didn't recognize him.
Right. Well, there goes my prediction for your number 1. What's your number 6?
My number 6 is going to be higher for you. It's Inside Llewyn Davis.
I mean, it's not a lot higher, but it's a bit higher.
Okay, so let's save it.
Just a bit
What's
higher.
your number 5?
My 5 is the Hudsucker Proxy.
I also missed that one. I didn't think this would be on your list that high. I didn't see it as like a big Coen Brother film, but all right.
I would argue that's a bigger movie than The Man Who Wasn't There. Like,
okay.
I
Maybe.
think so.
I haven't seen it either, so.
Let me check. Hudsucker Proxy has 77,000 ratings. This is all I'm basing this on, by the way.
Okay.
77,000, and we're going to go to The Man Who Wasn't There, which has 104,000.
Yeah.
Take that win.
The Man Who Wasn't There also got some Oscar nominations as well.
Right. I mean, okay. Yeah, you're right.
Well,
that
also kind of boosts the viewership.
You're right. Hudsucker Proxy, I absolutely loved. And if it, like, the first 30 minutes are my favorite 30 minutes of Coen Brother movies.
Mm-hmm.
If the rest of the movie could have lived up to those 30 minutes, this would be my number 1. Because if
Still high. Jesus.
Yeah. Tim Robbins has never been funny on anything I've seen him in. He plays this young, he just graduated from college and wants to make it big, but no one takes him on because he doesn't have experience. He wants to work in like some sort of business. I don't even know what it is now. Just in some sort of company. I think he wants to make things. He has an idea for something and he just wants to be able to, bring it to light.
Mm-hmm.
And he, no one accepts him obviously because he doesn't have any experience. And the Hudsucker company, I think it's called, hires people without experience. So he goes there, all Bambi-eyed and everything, and young and excited, but he's just thrown in the mail room where there's like hundreds of people just with thousands and thousands of letters, and no pay, long hours, and it's just one of the most stressful jobs I've ever seen. But then a blue letter arrives, which I have to say, first of all, I'm not giving away too much. The first scene of the movie is it's the president of the company jumping out of the window after he heard how great everything was going. Like the company is doing perfect, and he stands up on the table and runs out and jumps out of the window and dies.
Okay.
And I would just want to look if that's also, because that's also an actor that I think maybe he's in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Interesting.
As who?
Pappy O'Daniel.
Pappy? Who was Pappy again?
Who was Pappy again?
I watched the movie today, so that's kind of embarrassing.
Who is Pappy? I think, isn't Pappy O'Daniel the... Oh,
yeah, I think he's the guy who's running for governor.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Opposite the guy from the Clans.
Homer something.
Right. So he plays wearing Hudsucker, and he jumps out the window in the beginning, right? So then flash forward to Tim Robbins in the basement or whatever in the letter department. And one day an alarm rings, and it's like a blue letter is coming in. You have no idea what it means, but just everyone panics because no one wants to receive the letter because it obviously implies something. I don't know. There's a big burden on the person who has to deliver it. So the only person who has no idea what this is and what, like, he doesn't know that he doesn't want to take on that responsibility is Tim Robbins. So he gets handed the letter and he has to personally deliver it to Sidney J. Musburger, who is played by Paul Newman, the legend himself. Paul Newman. Really? Sundance, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, and so many. The Sting.
Wow.
One of the... I don't want to say one of the greats because there's so many movies I haven't seen. I'm still have to catch up on so many of his movies, but I love him. So he is one of the greats, but I just don't really, I haven't seen enough yet. But he basically, the plot is this. Sidney J. Musburger, he wants to hire or find a new president. So he's a high tier and he's a high guy in the company, right? Mm-hmm. So the board want to find a new president with like a bad reputation to bring the company down because that would make the stock cheaper so that they could all buy stocks. So then as soon as they replace the president and the company grows again, they have all the stock.
Genius, yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
So he hires Tim Robbins because he's such a doofus. And the scene where he hands him the blue letter is so funny because the whole like building this movie takes place in, he's got like these gigantic rooms, and in one gigantic room there's just one desk, and Sidney J. Musburger sits at the desk, and Tim Robbins has to walk like a mile to get to him, but he's on the phone, Paul Newman, and he's just like Tim Robbins comes in, he doesn't want to interrupt him, and he's just standing in the middle of the room and sort of hesitantly walks forward and backwards, and it is hysterical. It is so funny the way he acts. And then that's really only the first like 15 minutes. But then Tim Robbins is president, and it's got Jennifer Jason Leigh, who I have to say I'm not the biggest fan of. I just am not. Yeah,
I think she's great.
Well, they watch the Hudsucker Proxy. I love it. She plays like a journalist who is very like 40s and 50s movies, like fast talking and like one of those gals. That's even mentioned in the thing. What's that movie? His Girl Friday. Is that what it is? His Girl Friday.
I haven't seen it. No, I don't know. Maybe.
His Girl Friday. Yeah, the 1940 movie. That reminded me so much of her. And I don't want to give away anything else because there's much, much more to discover. It's just so funny because he has this idea of like just a circle. That's his brilliant idea. He keeps telling everyone to circle.
I saw that scene actually.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's just so good. And the end of the movie, obviously, it didn't live up to the first 30 minutes, I thought, but it's still a fantastic movie, and it's only number 5 because I do like 4 to 1 more, but as I said, 6 through 1 are all fantastic in my opinion.
Interesting. Oh, okay. So I guess I have to check this out. I thought this is something that I could definitely skip, but...
It's one of the more funny Coen Brother movies in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. So that's your 5? 4?
That's my 5.
Wow. Okay. Well, my 5 is True Grit, a very different movie than what you just described.
Yeah, I was waiting for that one. That's not on my list.
Wow. Okay.
You know this. We talked about this movie on the Damon special?
All right.
Is
I
it-
just figured it would be somewhere on your list. I didn't think it would be high, but not at all. I'm just interested what else could be on there.
We'll have the same couple of movies at
I
the
guess.
top. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, True Grit, it's a Western with, as you mentioned, Matt Damon, of course, also Jeff Bridges, and also Elizabeth Marvel as the narrator. Which is funny because I saw this movie shortly after I watched News of the World. Or I guess I rewatched it. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't even have realized that. And in the leading role, pretty much, I sadly forgot her name. She's gotten
Haley-
bigger now.
Yeah. Haley Steinfeld.
Right. She also plays in Edge of 17, which is a fun coming-of-age movie.
Yes.
I think also on Netflix right now. Or it was at least.
Great Woody Harrelson performance in that.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, True Grit, it's a Western. Have we talked about this on the Damon special? I think so. I
Yeah,
guess
it made
I've
your list. It
talked
made your
about-
list.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's about Haley Steinfeld's character whose father had been killed by an outlaw. So she wants to put his affairs in order and hires a marshal played by Jeff Bridges and wants to capture and then, of course, kill the outlaw they're chasing. And Matt Damon plays a Texas Ranger who wants to accompany them, help them, and get the bounty for this outlaw. And it's their journey across the states and trying to find that outlaw who I'm not going to spoil who he's played by, but I think it's kind of a cool reveal if you've seen other Coen Brothers movies.
Yes.
And I think she's just absolutely fucking amazing in her role, Haley Steinfeld.
She's good, yeah. She's great
Yeah.
in everything. I really like her.
Definitely. And it's also got Domhnall Gleeson in a smaller role. No, sorry, not. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Domhnall Gleeson.
Yeah.
I confuse him with his father a lot.
Well, that's
And
yeah.
I think it's got some very funny elements, just Matt Damon with his heavy accent and being a bit of more goofy and very conservative guy who just at one point spanks Haley Steinfeld for being disobedient.
Right.
Which is such a absurd scene in my opinion.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's just great acting all around and just an engaging story.
I mean, I think this is the only remake, right? That the Coen Brothers
No.
ever did. No?
No, there's another one. Which one was it? I mean, they did Ladykillers, which was also
you're right,
a remake.
Ladykillers, of course.
And apart from that, I mean, No Country for Old Men was based on a book. I
Right.
don't think it's been adapted before. I guess Oh Brother Where Art Thou, also based on a book that's been adapted quite a few times.
Right, but has it been?
Yeah. Yeah.
didn't know
mean,
that.
Oh Brother Where Art Thou it's based on the Odyssey.
Right, but no,
So,
yeah, okay.
other
Sure,
ways, I
Sure,
guess.
sure. But not like
But-
that specific
yeah.
story, I mean.
But apart from that, not as far as I'm aware.
I just thought I'd
Less
mention
Crossing,
that.
maybe?
I don't think so.
But
Maybe I
yeah.
shouldn't have said that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's just a great movie, and it's one of the best westerns that I've seen. It's no Dead Man,
Really? Wow.
but
It's
mean-
no Dead Man.
it's one of the best westerns that I've ever seen. But I mean, which great westerns are there? I mean,
I'm the wrong person to ask. That's
yeah,
not my genre
right?
either, but
Yeah,
there are
same
many.
here.
Well, The Wild
I
Bunch,
guess.
The Magnificent Seven,
Haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
And I'm also still missing
the Clint
Good,
Eastwood
the Bad,
movies.
the Uglies.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
We shouldn't even publish
Talk,
that information. No,
We're
that's
posers. We don't know movies.
Well, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is a very big omission on
Yeah.
both of our
Yeah.
lists.
I mean, I have seen For a Fistful of Dollars, which is just the worse version of Jojimbo by
here we go.
Akira
Here comes
Kurosawa.
the
So,
Kurosawa fanboy again. Yeah, well, you could say the same thing about the what was it? The
Magnificent Seven.
Magnificent Seven. Yeah,
I haven't seen that movie, but yeah, I mean, I think Seven Samurai is one of the best movies ever made.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. It's a discussion for another time.
the Kurosawa top 10. Yeah.
So, what's your number 4 then?
My 4 is Inside Llewyn Davis,
Okay.
and I have to admit, dude, I haven't seen it since the theater,
Mm-hmm.
and I just know that. Did this make your list?
When?
Now?
Yeah, it's my number 6.
I thought you hated that movie.
I didn't like it the first time, so I rewatched it to give it a fair shot, and I liked it so much more now. And I think I know why I didn't like it, because it's got a lot of songs in the full length, and I think I was kind of bored when I first saw it. I was quite young, and I just expected a
was
totally
quite young.
different movie, and just from the narrative as well, from where it goes and what the movie's actually about. I think I was like 15 when I watched this movie for the first time.
Right.
And I expected something more traditional, I guess, and was kind of dissatisfied with the ending. But now I do like those kinds of movies way more, and I just absolutely love the soundtrack now as well. And I just love the outer space. Outer
Adam
space.
Driver. Yeah, he is. That was sort of the beginning of the Adam Driver taking over Hollywood.
Yeah,
the very
really?
beginning. Yeah. Well, yeah, I would think so.
I guess so.
So
Yeah.
he was in Girls, obviously. But
Yeah.
I think that sort of started it off. Yeah.
I first noticed him in Star Wars, but
No, sure, but that's sort
kinda
of
late. Yeah.
Right. That's basically him conquering Hollywood at that point. Right?
Yeah, he has now.
Yeah, I love the soundtrack. That's the
Mhm.
main selling point for me, because
Yeah.
it's written also by the Mumford and Sons, or just Marcus
Mhm.
Mumford, and I love it. And I had the song "Hang Me, Oh Hang Me." I put that
Mhm.
on my phone after I saw the movie the first time in theaters, and I think he plays that opposite. What's his name? F. Murray Abraham, right? I think he's in this movie.
Is he?
I think so. F. Murray Abraham, yeah. I think that's him. I'm pretty sure that's him. But obviously you got all these, John Goodman is in this. You got Justin Timberlake, Carey Mulligan, who
I
was
think she's great. Amazing voice. Sorry. Yeah.
yeah. She's obviously also in Drive with Oscar Isaac, because the main guy is played by Oscar Isaac. Did we mention that? I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
Yeah, and he's just fantastic as the struggling folk singer who's trying to make it, and the music is fantastic. It's got a very interesting way of telling its story, just from where it starts and where it ends.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, just a lot of funny elements to it as well. It's one of those movies that isn't a comedy by any means, but has some real life comedy, which I always enjoy. And I mean, he's just a very relatable character to me, not in the sense of I'm pursuing a music career, but I could just relate with him. I feel like he played it so well, Oscar Isaac, and you can see the struggle and you can see his passion, and it's just you root for the guy, even though not a lot of this going his way.
Yeah, I think his interactions with people, also John Goodman in the car, is amazing, and also Carey Mulligan when they sit on that bench and they talk about her because she's pregnant, and which is kind of a bit of a problem for them, why I'm not going to go into, but I think they're just great because she just puts him down immediately. Whatever he says, she just fucking destroys him every fucking time he tries to say something, but she loves him and despises him in a way. I guess she loves him because they do interact with each other, but she doesn't let that on. Right. And I think that's just great how they talk and how he reacts to it. And he knows he's a bit of a piece of shit, just how he treats people, but he just can't catch a break.
Yeah. And this also solidifies how much variety is in the Coen Brothers work. Not that it wasn't solidified before inside Llewyn Davis, which is a more recent movie, but it's just quite incredible to me that how different their movies are, but then you could still tell that it's a Coen Brother movie.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's quite an achievement.
Yeah, and they got a great taste in music. Also
really
in Opera de Arte, just folk music, they really got a hand for that. And
yeah. The look is also incredible in that movie. I mean, very weird and just very a lot of blue and green and just very I don't even know how to describe it. Not a lot of color. Yeah. It just seems very damp, but it fits the mood.
I mean, it does play in the 1960s and it's got to feel like it's back then. It feels like a bit less color, I guess if somebody filmed it with an old camera.
Right, because as we all know, colored movies came out in the 50s, right?
I guess so.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to know, I don't know if you know this, at the very beginning of the movie, he gets greeted by a man in the alley whose face we never really see.
Okay.
Oh, okay. It's been a while since you've seen it. But I'm interested because you never see his face, but I'm wondering who his
Sam
voice
Raimi?
is. I would be surprised. It seems more like Billy Bob Thornton, but I don't think it is him, just from how he talks.
Okay, I haven't seen it in so long. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know, but
yeah.
If you know it, let us know.
But I've been binging the soundtrack as well. It's amazing, especially 500 Miles. Great song.
Yeah, Hang Me, Oh Hang Me. And
that
Fare
one's
Thee Well. I love Fare Thee
And
Well.
of course, Please, Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah, Please, Mr. Kennedy. I had that on repeat as well.
Oh.
Outer space. Yeah.
All right.
What's your 4?
Fargo, which you had way higher or lower, I guess.
Well, it's not even that much. It's my 7.
Okay, well. Yeah, Fargo, I think it's their breakout movie, and they're one of the most well-known movies and iconic, especially now that the show has come out, which takes place pretty much exactly after the events of the movie. And I think it's also very much known just because of the opening title or text that appears, because it says based on a true story.
Right. Which it isn't.
And yeah.
Yeah.
But it just having that said at the beginning of the film and thinking, did it really happen?
100%.
Or imagining that
100%
makes it so much more fun, even more. And the cool thing is, it is set in Fargo, and the whole film is a bit of a thriller, but it's in crime, but it's got so many funny elements in the movie because it's set in North Dakota. And I think they also picked that place because it's got such a funny accent.
I was going to say,
so
the accent alone is funny. Yeah.
Yeah. And so everything terrible is just overshadowed by them saying, all right, yeah, yo. And but it's about a man played by, I'm blanking.
William H. Macy.
William H. Macy, thank you, who's, I think, now most known for his role in Shameless, or widely known because of his role there.
Yes, I would say our generation knows him as Frank Gallagher, yeah.
But he plays a bit of a desperate husband who needs money for a project and he doesn't know how to get it, so he decides to hire 2 men to kidnap his wife because his father-in-law is loaded, but he absolutely despises him. So he wants them to kidnap his wife and send out a ransom, and then they're going to split the ransom. And the kidnappers are played by Steve Buscemi and Peter Stormare.
Right.
Who are just a very odd pair because Steve Buscemi can't seem to shut up and Peter Stormare refuses to talk.
Which is a theme throughout his Coen Brothers career, Steve Buscemi, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's told to shut up multiple times.
I think it's also based on, I read somewhere, because in another movie he barely talks at all.
Right.
So he wanted him to talk more.
Right.
And also the same thing with
Big Lebowski.
Yeah, but with Billy Bob Thornton his character, because he talks a lot in one of his films. I forgot which one. And so they made him talk very slow and way less in The Man Who Wasn't There.
Okay.
Or I guess just slower.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's just a thing that also spirals out of control, of course. But in the leading role, earning her first Academy Award, I think deservedly. It's just such a fun role by Frances McDormand as the police officer who tries to solve all of this because the kidnappers, of course, slip up, make a mistake, and then she kind of follows the lead from there.
Right.
And it's just absurd and funny and brutal and shocking and just a fun film.
With John Carroll Lynch as
the
her husband. Yeah,
of course.
Yep. Yeah, I have to say, this is my number 7 for a very good reason, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Or good, I mean, that's subjective, but I saw the show first.
Ooh,
and for me, it will forever be better than the movie. I'm talking about season 1.
It's so different, I guess.
It is so different, but then again, it's not. I mean, it is. Season 1 is kind of similar.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think so.
Of course it's similar. I mean, it takes place in the same place. It starts off immediately at the end of the movie, and then it jumps ahead 30 years.
Is that what happens?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's about the guy finding something, and then him being an absolute prick to Martin Freeman's character.
Yes. And I don't want it, because they're not involved in that show, the Coen Brothers, other than obviously it's based on their movie. Maybe, but not like writing or directing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that obviously stars Billy Bob Thornton and Martin Freeman, and I think they're just fantastic. And
they are. And
Allison,
the woman who plays the sheriff.
Who plays Frances McDormand's character.
Yeah. No, it's not her.
No, I know, but I'm saying similar, I'm saying similar. I think her name is Allison something.
Yeah, I think she's great, especially in that show.
Yes, I agree. So that's the only reason why, because I saw Fargo the movie later, and I was like, I've been in this world for a whole season before, so it wasn't as maybe original to me as it should have been, maybe. But
Okay.
I do love it. I think Macy is just as good in the leading role as is Martin Freeman, or maybe even better. He's really terrific in this, and I agree. It's it deserves to be higher. It's just, for me, the show is always going to be ahead of it.
I get it. The show is fantastic, and I recommend watching the movie first and checking out the show, all of the seasons, even though the seasons aren't connected.
Yeah, I
guess.
started watching season 2.
Yeah?
Yeah, only one
Now?
episode though. Yeah,
Oh,
now.
wow.
Yeah.
This season 2 is cool. 3 as well had a problem with 3 at the start, but it gets better. And season 4 is set to come out this year
Oh, I thought
sometime
that
with
was
Chris
out already.
Rock.
I thought that was already out.
Was it already out?
I'm
Okay,
not sure.
maybe I missed it.
Yeah, that
Maybe.
Alison Tolman. I just looked it
Okay.
up. Yeah. Right.
Okay. So that leaves your
my
number
3.
4.
No, my 3.
Sorry, of course.
That was your
And
4,
You're
right?
right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Season 4 is already out in September. My bad.
There you go. We missed a
but yeah.
pick. It could have been a pick. My 3 is, this is definitely one of your top 3, is The Big Lebowski.
Yeah, but it's higher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So my number 3 is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah, okay.
Which was your 8?
9.
9, okay. I mean, I was just completely taken off guard by this movie. I bought it on Blu-ray. I have never seen it before, and it was just like, all right,
okay.
it's a Coen Brothers film. Let's check it out. I think that was like 3-4 years ago.
Oh, I thought it was recently. Okay.
No. And I was just so surprised and delighted by this, not just by the soundtrack, which is amazing, but just the story and how whimsical it feels and stupid. It's just such a nice adventure in a way, which I just didn't expect at all. I thought it would be either darker or even dumber. It was just...
It is pretty dumb, though.
just perfectly in between. And I rewatched it today, and I just had a smile on my face, or was just so filled with joy in a way because of the characters and the music. And it's, I think, as we mentioned before, it's based on The Odyssey by Homer, which came out around 3,000 years ago.
It's a more recent release.
Still a classic. But yeah, it's loosely based on it. And the funny thing is, I read the Coen Brothers never read The Odyssey.
Okay.
And Joel Coen apparently said that he has it on his nightstand. He has had it there for about 10 years and he still hasn't read it.
So how is it based on it then?
They just know about it from other movies and
Okay.
from being told about it, but they never actually read it. And it's a very modern interpretation. It's set in the 1930s, I think 1934, 1937, something like that, during the Great Depression. And it's about 3 prison inmates who escape from a chain gang and then make their way across the country to find the treasure that George Clooney's character is hidden. And he's chained together with Tim Blake Nelson and, of course, John Turturro.
Of course.
And it's got a lot of cameos, but a lot of other actors, like, for example, John Goodman, who plays the Cyclops.
I mean, yeah. I'm really struggling not to mix up all of these cameos. I know, of course, yeah.
They just drop a name of one of the characters, and
He'll be
they're
in there somewhere. Yeah.
I mean, John Root, of course, as well. He was also in a lot of Coen Brother movies.
Stephen Root.
Stephen Root, I'm sorry. And yeah, it's them encountering the different trials of Odysseus. And of course, George Clooney's character is called Ulysses, which is
Everett
version of the
McGill.
name. Everett McGill, yeah.
Yeah.
And John Turturro's character, I forgot.
Oh, oh God. Isn't it
I
John?
watched it today, and no, I think it's something else because
Paul?
they think, I mean, there's a very funny scene with a toad.
Right, that's the scene I'm thinking of when they were...
Yeah.
What?
In the
Pete,
cinema
not
with-
Paul, Pete.
Pete, of course, yeah. And Delma O'Donnell.
Yeah, Delmar is... that is my highlight of the film. I just love Tim Blake Nelson. I really do. And
He is great.
his voice is also so incredible to me.
Yeah. And it's also got Michael Badalucco, who is in The Man Who Wasn't There.
Right.
Plays also one of the
Right.
barbers.
Right,
I
absolutely.
Saw that today, just by coincidence. But yeah, it's about them traveling across the country and then recording a piece of music as the Soggy Bottom Boys. And
Yeah.
that song has more success and more popularity than the movie, which is just hilarious because the movie soundtrack spawned 2 follow-up albums. It's had its own tour, and it even won a Grammy for Best Western or Country Album.
Who
Which is just
who
funny.
sings it? Do you know?
I fucking forgot.
It's
I
definitely
forgot.
not them.
It was supposed to be George Clooney, but he even practiced for it, and then they, at the last minute, I think replaced him because he just couldn't get it
Right.
exactly right. But it's by somebody quite known, I think, but I've never heard of this person myself.
Okay.
But yeah, I can't find it right now. But I mean, it is your number 9. Why did you pick it on your list? I mean, it's still on there and it's still a good movie for you, right?
Yeah, I mean the song. I have memories of that song because we were once asked to play it in our band was asked to play it at a wedding.
Oh wow, I would have loved to hear that.
Yeah, I did not sing it.
Oh, okay.
I can't even
Who
remember
did?
if we actually played it, but we definitely rehearsed it.
Hmm.
Our lead singer. Olga.
Okay.
Yes. But I think first of all, Clooney is charming as hell, as he always is.
Mhm.
Him on it. Basically, the movie's 2 hours of him finding hair gel. That's what I found. That's what I got from the movie.
It is a
Dapper
big
Dan
part
hair-
of the
hair
movie.
gel, yeah.
Dapper Dan.
No, I like the music elements of it too, and I loved the way this movie wrapped up. The whole performance at the
Mhm.
end, I thought that was very well done, and I also liked the scene where where the women are like hypnotizing them basically with their
sirens.
song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a weird. It's so weird, and that's also Coen Brothers to me. It's just so weird. So many weird choices in their movies, but yeah, it's just the setting to me is not the most appealing, and I don't know. I can get the appeal for it, but it didn't really get me as much as it does other people. I don't know. I thought it was
Yeah.
fine. I think this is more like a 7 out of 10. You know, it's better than some of the other Coen Brothers movies, but for me, it won't ever have that impact.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's more, I guess, a feeling than just an objective view in the movie, because it just makes me feel great, just the music and the acting, like I said, and
Right.
it's just my kind of humor in a lot of ways. But I get it why it's not one's favorite Coen Brother movie.
I did expect this to be high for you, so I'm glad.
Higher
I-
even?
No,
Wow.
no, I don't. High, just
okay,
high.
okay.
Yeah. So I'm glad I still know you a little bit.
Still a little predictable.
Yes.
Little predictable, can't talk. All right, so
I did love
We're-
the actors, by the way. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was the main thing for me. All 3 of them and everyone else too.
but sorry, we did do your 3, right? Which was
Big
Inside Llewyn
Lebowski.
Davis.
No,
Us-
3 is Big Lebowski.
Okay, sorry. So we're number 2. Ho ho ho! Wow. I know what your 2 and 1 is.
Yeah,
but
same.
I don't know the order.
No, my 2 is Burn After Reading,
Oh, okay.
which is this might be the most out there pick for me or on our lists. I watched this like a year or 2 ago with a
Mhm.
friend of mine, and I loved it, man. I just loved it. It's
Yeah.
got no. It's just maybe one of the weirdest Coen Brother movies, just in terms of how over the top everything is.
Yeah.
And then again, it's all about nothing really in the
Yeah.
end. When like so many Coen Brothers movies again, but I don't even know where to begin with this story. I mean, Brad Pitt in one of his greatest roles, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm sad that they didn't collaborate more often.
Yeah, I'm sure they will be maybe some point.
It would
Hopefully,
be cool. Yeah.
but he finds like a list of CIA operatives. What is it?
It's a disc with information about the CIA, about
Yeah.
meetings and people, and yeah, top secret shit.
Yeah, and he works at this fitness place
Mhm.
with Frances McDormand,
Mm-hmm.
and then they figure out that it's Oswald Cox? Is it that? Osborne
Yeah.
Cox. Osborne.
Osborne.
Cox,
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
played by the wonderful what's his name?
John Malkovich.
John Malkovich. I kept thinking Goodman there for a minute. John Malkovich.
He sadly isn't in that movie.
Is he not? Maybe.
John, maybe as a cameo, some
Yeah.
voice in the background,
I don't
working out.
That reminds me, dude. Bruce Campbell is in
Mm.
Hudsucker Proxy.
Right.
because that movie is written by Sam Raimi.
He's also in The Ladykillers.
I haven't seen The Ladykillers. I've only seen the original, and I didn't feel the need to watch the remake.
Yeah, I would like to see the original now that I've seen the remake.
Yeah. But I forgot to mention that. Hudsucker Proxy, written by Sam Raimi, and therefore it has a Bruce Campbell role, which I just absolutely
mandatory.
loved. It is. But Burn After Reading, I mean, help me. It's been also 2 years, and I'm blanking on so many plot things. Where does Clooney come into place for this?
Yeah, I mean, I rewatched this recently, and I was surprised how good it was watching it again. But yeah, it's Osborne Cox, who is married to his wife, who they seem quite unhappy together. And as you soon find out about George Clooney's character, is that he's having an affair with Osborne Cox's wife, because they apparently know each other because he's also in law enforcement in some way.
Who's the wife again?
Tilda Swinton.
Tilda Swinton. Of course.
Yeah, because at the very beginning of the movie, Osborne Cox is fired from his job because he drinks too much, which is somebody tells him who is a Mormon, which just makes him even more angry because he also has a bit of a temper problem.
Right.
And his wife is just an absolute B word, bitch.
Sure. Thanks for censoring yourself and then just...
But yeah, and just belittling him and him trying to, of course, also stand up to her and then wanting to write his memoirs.
Right.
Which is where the other characters then come in. And then, of course, Frances McDormand, who wants a plastic surgery.
Yes. All she wants is a plastic surgery.
And
J.K. Simmons is also in this.
Of course, yes, the
role.
CIA director.
Fantastic little small part. Yeah.
I mean, I also watched a video today about Coen Brother movies, or I guess especially about one Coen Brother movie.
Shot, reverse shot? No.
No, I watched that one as well. But no, I watched one about The Big Lebowski also. And maybe a bit overanalyzing that movie. But what he said in that video rang true to me so much now that I've seen so many of their movies again.
Right.
Which is that their movies are extremely anticlimactic. And it's something that they play with. In so many movies, you think, oh, what's going to happen? Then they just either explain it or show it in passing, which would have been in many other movies, the big showdown or the big reveal or whatever.
Right.
Which is great if you know it because it makes you kind of laugh, but it can be kind of disappointing if you expect something else. And I think that was a bit of my problem with Burn After Reading when I first watched it.
Fair. But then again, it has sort of climactic moments in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
And that scene where Brad Pitt hides in the closet is just one of my favorite Coen Brothers scenes.
Yeah.
The smile he has on his face is iconic.
It is.
And I love the way that Clooney reacts too.
Yeah.
It's just so good. And there's also scenes of like the one scene where I forgot what basement it was, but where the fucking thing is revealed. What's in the what basement was that in? Tilda Swinton's basement?
In Clooney's.
Oh, it's in Clooney's basement. It's in Clooney's basement?
He's building it for his wife, who is away reading children's books.
You don't expect to see this in a Coen Brother movie. You just whatever movie that is. It's just like it's put there, and it's not even like talked about as this big taboo thing. It's just like didn't mean it like that.
It's I mean, just Frances McDormand's reaction to it is gold.
It's just so
her
good,
laugh as well. She's just perfect in that role.
Yeah, she's fantastic, and I love even though I agree completely, the endings are most often anticlimactic. I love the way this movie wraps up.
I completely forgot the ending, and it made me laugh, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was just so absurd.
It is so absurd, and it's to me I think the funniest Coen Brother movie. It is. I would say that this is a comedy. It is going for laughs, obviously,
definitely.
throughout the whole thing. Yeah. Just by Brad Pitt. Just Brad Pitt alone is like comedy gold. I was surprised to see this at my number 2. I really was, but I just have to be honest, and also like including rewatch factor, even though I didn't get around to rewatching it now. This is one of those movies that I will rewatch, and I want to rewatch sooner than, let's say, Miller's Crossing, even though that might be a better movie in terms of like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised that movie's that high, but that Fargo isn't like close to it, because I thought I know that you're a huge fan of Frances McDormand, and those are two of her most well-known roles, as far as I'm aware.
Well, I hope it made sense, the thing with the
Of course,
with the show, but I have to say I'm a huge Frances McDormand fan ever since I saw 3 Billboards. I wasn't one before, and I'm not saying that I wasn't a fan of her. You know what I mean? I've become a fan of hers after 3 Billboards. So
it's an amazing performance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I know you're 2 and 1. I don't know the order. Let's go.
Well, my number 2 is your number 1.
Okay.
So you want to just go ahead with that? Or I guess I can say it.
Hold on.
It's your thing.
Who started again? I started, right?
You, yeah.
So it's my one for... Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the best thing I've seen from the Coen Brothers is No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
Which is your 2.
Yeah, and
right.
if I hadn't a huge love for my number 1 pick from just a personal point of view, and I just absolutely adore that movie, that this would have been my number 1 as well. It's just an absolute masterpiece in filmmaking and just great through and through.
I agree. And I also think this is one of the most accessible Coen Brothers movies because it does have a story that is more traditional than others. And that might be because it's based on a book.
Maybe, but it's also got this very anticlimactic
100%.
Not ending, but a
well,
couple
it
of
is.
reveals.
Well, and also the ending is rather anticlimactic. And I agree, but sort of the whole thing, I think, is more accessible because you have a super villain, one of the best villains I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Played by Javier Bardem. What is it? Antonin Chigurh?
Yeah, Anton Chigurh.
Antonin? Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
With one of the most badass weapons.
It's one of the most ridiculous weapons.
One of the most ridiculous, yeah.
It seems so ineffective, but he pulls it off.
Yeah, literally.
And
I mean, go on.
Sorry, just one of the most iconic scenes. And I think the very first scene that I saw from this movie is
coin toss?
Because my brother showed it to me. Yeah, it's the coin toss, the friendo.
Yes.
Which is just, he looks incredibly ridiculous.
Yeah.
And if he wasn't so intimidating and off-putting in how he talks and how he just takes everything so literal, and just if somebody asks him something or he asks another person and they don't give him a straight up answer, he just calls them out, which makes the whole conversation so uncomfortable because he is so aggressive.
Right.
It's gold. It's absolutely perfect. And yeah, I agree. It's one of the best villain roles of all time.
Well, and that also leads to some funny scenes where he talks to that one secretary who wouldn't give away the information. Fantastic.
Is that funny?
It is funny.
It's quite tense as well, because if the person didn't flush the toilet, I don't know.
No, but it is funny when you think about... Well, I think it's funny. It's just...
Sure.
She's standing up for herself, even though there's a huge monster in front of her, basically. But she's just like, no, I can't give you that. I love it. Maybe it's not funny in the moment when you think about it. I think it's rather funny. But I mean, the story is rather convoluted, and I don't know how much we need to go into detail here. I mean, it is one of the most successful Coen Brother movies. I think it won Best Picture.
It's won 4 Oscars, I think. Yeah. Also Best Directing, Best Screenplay, and of course Best Supporting Actor.
Yes. But obviously it stars Josh Brolin and Tommy Lee Jones as the other leads. And you got Woody Harrelson in there too, with a great role.
Kelly MacDonald, and I absolutely love her. I've talked about her when I talked about Giri Haji, which is Do the Honor, the show.
Yes.
I enjoy her immensely, and I think she does a great American accent, even though she's Scottish, or English at least.
I like her. I think of Rebecca Hall when I think of her. I don't know. These two somehow come. I don't know. I just
interesting.
Yeah, one reminds me of the other. I don't know. But I mean, it is that story of what is it basically? Chigurh, he escapes killing people along the way, and then Josh Brolin finds a massacre of people dead all over him. Is he a policeman? What is he?
Well, Josh Brolin just comes across, while hunting, he comes across a couple of cars and a couple of dead people who died in a shootout, and then follows a trail to lead to a dead man with a briefcase with $2 million.
Right.
And what he then also knows when he encounters a couple of people, that people are looking for that money, so he's kind of on the run, and Javier Bardem right on his heel.
Right. And then Tommy Lee Jones obviously getting involved in that too.
He reminded me a bit of Jeff Bridges in Hello High Water. I mean, the whole kind of thing. It's also in Texas, of course.
Fair point, yeah. But I have to say, I think the whole movie is without music, or maybe very little music.
Oh wow! I watched this like yesterday, and wow, yeah, maybe.
Wow.
I didn't
Owen
even
Wilson.
pay attention to that. I think there's some music.
I'm not sure if
but I
there's
could be
no
wrong.
music, but I know there's very little music, and that
Yeah.
just makes some of the scenes even more tense. And I think it's a brilliant decision
But I
because
think-
music works, but then again, if
Yeah.
you leave it out, it's also very effective.
And I mean, it speaks for it that I can't even remember it. If there's no music, it's so tense that I didn't even pay
Yeah.
attention to it.
I mean, some of the scenes are just incredibly tense.
Yeah.
They really are. I mean, I think of the scene like with the door with the light under it,
Mm.
and then also the one where he hides the briefcase in that motel wherever he is.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic, man. It's just so
Yeah.
good. It's just so good, and I think it is for me the best Coen brother movie because it's got those tense moments. It's got this fantastic villain, and it is just. It's interesting that my number one is not based is based on a book. I know it's a Cormac McCarthy book, which is he also did like The Counselor, the Ridley Scott movie, which a lot of people
really?
hate,
Didn't
but I
know, yeah.
like that. The director's cut, or the extended cut. But yeah, for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, for the reasons I've listed, especially just Javier Bardem's performance is just fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I mean, the other actors is also
For-
great.
sure.
I loved Josh Brolin. And there's also this scene which I couldn't get out of my head. I don't know why. When he is in that store buying new boots, and the guy says we only have white socks, and he's like, that's the only kinds of socks I wear. I don't know why, but every time that I see white socks, I think of that scene. I don't know fucking why. Just because I don't know anybody who wears white socks except for tennis players.
Really? I wear white socks.
Oh really? I don't think I have a
Sometimes.
single pair of white socks.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Sorry, enough of my feet.
Yeah. Let's get to your one.
Yeah, my number one, The Big Lebowski. I think one of the most classic Coen Brother movies out there.
Yes, I would say
mean-
the classic, right?
And I think it spawned its own religion,
It definitely did.
which is stupid, but all right. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I think the very first Coen Brother movie that I ever saw, maybe Burn After Reading, but I think it was The Big Lebowski.
Okay.
And I think it's also the story of which the story is the hardest to explain in a way.
Do you think so? I think it's easier than
Yeah.
other movies, yeah.
But it's about the dude who is played by Jeff Bridges, who is a stoner drinking White Russians, just a great character, who's in a bowling league with his friends. He's not much of a guy who does anything. But at the very beginning of the movie, people break in and want their money. They want their fucking money. So they interrogate him and tell him, so, hey, what's the fucking money? You owe us so much. You're a millionaire. And he's like, dude, look around. I'm not a fucking millionaire. What do you think? What are you seeing, right?
But
you think this is how a millionaire lives?
Yeah, just before he says that, there's this great, because they keep dunking him in the toilet. And he's just like, they're like, where's the money? He's just like,
Yeah, where's the
let me
money?
have another look or whatever.
Right. And while they do that, somebody pisses on his rug, which is kind of the spark that ignites the whole movie, because then his friends, played by Steve Buscemi and John Goodman, convince him to go to the real Lebowski, who they mistaked him for, the Big Lebowski, and make him pay for a rug, because it's because of him that his rug got ruined. And then he kind of refuses, but he kind of steals one anyway by convincing his butler, who is played by the great Philip Seymour Hoffman. And then he kind of also meets the Big Lebowski's wife, who's then shortly after kidnapped. So the Big Lebowski hires the dude, Lebowski, Jeff Bridges, to find her and pay the ransom. And then it's kind of a bit of a deceiving on multiple parts. And then his friends, especially his friend played by John Goodman, who's very eccentric, and he's a Vietnam War veteran.
There you go.
Who, yeah, and also Josh Brolin is also a Vietnam
Yes,
War
sir.
veteran. in
Yes.
No Country for Old Men. But yeah, and then he convinces him to change out the money and keep it for himself, blah, blah, blah. And then it just gets crazier and stupider and just amazing. And it's also got, I'm so bad with names today. The great actress from
Julianne Moore?
Still Alice, Julianne Moore, thank you. And
David
also
Thewlis?
David Foulkes, and of course John Turturro as Jesus,
Yes.
the greatest bowling player of all time. He also got his own spin-off movie, which is supposed to be terrible. Like 2-3 years ago, I think.
Isn't it a show?
Is it a show?
I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just near and dear to my heart. I love this movie every time I watch it. It's great. There's this amazing scene where he's interviewed by a cop and he just keeps talking to the dude and he just stares off into nothingness and then snaps back into it. I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. Just aggravates the police officer
He
so
just
much.
throws a fucking cup at
Yeah.
him over there. Because you expect him to like throw the drink in his face, but he just chucks the whole mug in his face.
The great thing is just Jeff Bridges showing no expression until the very second that the mug hits him. It's amazing. It's just comedic gold, and I think it's one of my favorite comedies of all time. And also, of course, Peter Stormare.
Yes.
Once again, as a
Uli.
German. What?
As Uli.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I think his name is Uli in that, no?
Maybe. I didn't get to rewatch this movie, sadly, but I think I'm going to watch it the next couple of days. But
Yeah.
I knew this was going to be my number one. I didn't have to rewatch it.
You're right, by the way. It is a movie. The Jesus Chronicles.
All right, so
Well, I have to say, like,
please,
not Jeff.
John Goodman.
John Goodman's character. I mean, what a good friend and what an asshole he is. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want him alongside me. He fucks up everything.
Yeah,
Absolutely everything.
the most loyal friend you could ever want. And
He is, but
although
he's-
he's a prick,
He's
to
such
Steve
a
Buscemi.
prick.
Yeah.
Unbelievable prick.
And of course, the most iconic scene, which is also, I think, the scene I saw before the movie. I think, once again, my brother showed it to me. John Goodman being very much a rule referee and not believing a guy that he didn't step over the line during
Nice.
a bowling tournament. And then, of course, pulling out a fucking gun and threatening him to change the score,
Yeah.
which is one of the it's the funniest scene, one of the funniest scenes that I've seen in my fucking life. I think if you haven't seen this movie,
Really?
you're missing an integral part of fucking movie history.
Well, so do we with Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Of course.
Who
yeah,
are we
but-
to say?
Of course, sorry. We shouldn't be such hypocrites.
I
But
think the funniest scene in the movie is at the very end at the cliffs.
yeah, of course.
That is, to me, the funniest scene of the movie.
Yeah,
Just by what he says and the dude's reaction and what he does, it's fucking tastic.
yeah. And, sorry, also, of course, the wife of the Big Lebowski looking at the dude and like, I'll suck your dick for $5,000. And he just looks at her. Let me find an ATM.
Yeah, and-
Let me find an ATM. Yeah.
Yeah, and Philip Seymour Hoffman can watch for $100. Yeah,
Sorry.
it's good. Obviously,
Great
she
fucking
played by
movie.
Tara Reid,
Yeah.
American Pie, icon Tara Reid. But yeah, I love it. I mean, I love Philip Seymour Hoffman in this too, and I rewatched this, and this could easily be higher for me too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
my 3 now, and it's just it's really fantastic. I think it's my favorite performance in any Coen Brother movie. Jeff Bridges, the dude.
Yeah.
Great
It's-
music
yeah.
too. The
Soundtrack
condition.
is amazing. Yeah.
I just dropped in to see what condition my condition
Yeah.
was in when he's that high on this trip.
There's a
Fantastic.
great story, a great interview where he talks about that scene, how it was filmed.
On Conan. Yeah.
Yeah.
With the sandals and
that out.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good, man. I found more appreciation for this film now because I wasn't in love with it before, but I wouldn't say I'm in love with it now, but I really think it's fantastic now.
It's a great movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's iconic and it's deservedly so. I mean, Sam Elliott narrating the whole thing, just brilliant. Just brilliant. I'm sure we're missing so many people. I mean,
Yeah.
so much is happening in that movie, but
Also, the funny thing is, from this list, this is one of the very few movies that didn't get any nominations. Like big nominations. No Golden Globes, no Oscars.
and
I think
also
the
no
only other
Frances
one
McDormand.
is No Frances McDormand. Maybe
In
a cameo?
their biggest
I
movie,
don't know.
maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think so. But yeah, no Oscar nominations. I mean, it
Yeah.
was one of their earlier roles as well, or earlier movies as well. but
Yeah. But I guess even Barton Fink got nominations. And I
Yeah.
think
You're right.
Blood Simple is the only other one that didn't get any Globe or Oscar nominations.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
Still
looking,
appreciate it.
going with the theme of this episode, like looking at the IMDb ratings, actually, No Country for Old Men has more ratings. Interesting. I thought The Big Lebowski would like easily trump that, but you know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I think Big Lebowski, I think more people have seen Big Lebowski than No Country, no? Wouldn't you say?
Maybe. But like No Country for Old Men, maybe also because it won like Best Picture of the Year, it also attracts way more people all of a sudden just to hear that.
Yeah.
And just because of Javier Bardem's performance, I think everybody just flocks to see that.
Yeah. Fair point. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, that's our list. Yeah, I have to say before I forget, because we haven't mentioned this movie on the Cage special either. I forgot to mention it. But what about Raising Arizona?
We watched this together, and I didn't like it. We did, at your place, like 3 years ago.
I didn't like it at all.
Yeah,
I can't remember that I watched this with you.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I'm like 90% sure, and I didn't like it at all either. So we didn't also include it on the Cage special.
Yeah, which is one of the more acclaimed Cage movies.
Yeah.
And also Coen Brothers movies.
Yeah, I just couldn't get with the humor. I didn't find it funny at all.
I completely agree. Agree. But do you have any honorables?
I mean, all my honorables, I guess, would have been like Miller's Crossing, and I did watch Ladykillers.
Right.
And I did enjoy it. It's just funny and stupid. And also got Marlon Wayans and J.K. Simmons, which is a combination that I didn't think I would see in a Coen Brother film together with Tom Hanks. But yeah, it's a fun movie. It's not perfect by any means, and it's got some weird CGI. And I think I would prefer to watch the original, but I think other than that, I think we mentioned all the big ones and all the ones that I've seen.
Well, we haven't mentioned the more recent ones. I mean, Hail Caesar.
Of course.
And The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, which is their latest work.
Of course. I imagined this would make like your number 10 or 9.
No.
Buster Scruggs.
No, I thought it was
I thought
fine.
you liked it. Okay.
I hated Hail Caesar, and I thought Buster Scruggs was fine.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't like Hail Caesar either. Not a lot. I thought it was okay. I was disappointed, but I didn't hate it as much as you have. I know you absolutely despise this movie, right?
Well, that's a bit harsh, but I just didn't enjoy it. I remember that Ballad of Buster Scruggs, it features Harry Melling, the icon of the show, and he's also going to be in their new movie.
Macbeth, right?
What's it called? Tragedy of Macbeth, right? With Frances McDormand, Denzel Washington, Brendan Gleeson, coming out this year.
In that. Yeah.
Yes. But other for honorables, like I don't even know. I think I'm pretty set in my 10 things. I mean, we haven't mentioned Intolerable Cruelty.
Once again, a movie that I missed. Like,
okay,
that's The Man Who Wasn't There and Hudsucker.
Right.
The 3 big ones that I missed.
Right. I would only say that I would say seek out Hudsucker, in my opinion. But Intolerable Cruelty, I wasn't making my list. And then other than that, I think like we haven't mentioned the movies that they only wrote. I mean, there's like Suburbicon,
which was all right.
Yeah. As you said, never mind. By the way, the Jesus Rolls, that's what it's called. The thing that's written and directed by John Turturro.
Of course.
But they wrote Bridge of Spies.
Right, which also was okay.
They wrote Unbroken, the film by Angelina Jolie, directed by Angelina Jolie. Didn't see that one either.
I didn't know that it was written by them. I heard it was good.
Yeah. And they also wrote a movie called Gambit.
Gambit, yeah.
And I have to say, I haven't seen this movie, but the last thing I want to recommend, and we mentioned it before, is Shot, Reverse Shot.
Yeah, I want to mention that as well.
Because he also talks about Gambit.
Yeah.
And it's every frame a painting, a YouTube channel that sadly no longer posts videos.
Yeah.
But it is the best, like, what are these things called? Like video essays.
Movie analysis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Movie essays is a great term, yeah.
Out there. Tony Zhu, I believe his name is. I'm hoping I pronounced that correctly, but he is fantastic. And he has one video on the Coen Brothers, also one on Fincher and one on Jackie Chan and one on Scorsese, and every one of them is absolutely fantastic. And so is
Buster Keaton, one of his best video essays.
You're right. And Robin Williams too, I think. That's the last thing I want to recommend. I think other than that, we covered pretty much everything.
Yeah. I saw that one as well today.
Yeah.
Or again, that's why I saw the circle scene.
Yes.
Hudsucker.
Yes. I saw it. I rewatched it today as well.
Yeah, but I think it's a cool list, and I think it's just a couple of directors who have done so many great films, and I think nothing terrible. I mean, Hail Caesar and maybe Raising Arizona aren't my kinds of movies, but I wouldn't say they're bad in any way.
Right.
And yeah, I think they're just beloved all around, and I understand why. And yeah, it's great to have seen even more of theirs.
Yeah, I hope they... I feel like lately I haven't enjoyed their movies as much as I did earlier work of theirs.
They take a while to bring out movies.
Yeah, but that's not a bad thing usually.
Of course, yeah. But I mean, the last ones were like Hail Season Buster Scruggs, but
Right. Well,
earlier
they
than
bring
that,
one.
like,
The next one's coming out this year, apparently. So
yeah.
I'm hoping they'll be back to old Coen brother form, in my opinion. But there's certainly two directors that are very worth checking out. But you know that already. I mean, I think most people have seen a lot of Coen brother movies. But maybe some of them that we talked about today you haven't, and so maybe you want to check them out. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it for me. I don't have anything else. How about you?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it for me as well. I think it's great that we talked about directors, so we didn't have that awkward situation where we talked about a lesser known role or maybe less important role, because it's their movie, it's all their movies, and they're all theirs, and they're all great. And yeah, thank you so much for listening to this special. It's been a blast to watch these movies and to talk about them. And yeah, we hope to see you again. Check us out on any other platforms if you want to. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and we can also be found on @BestThingRadio on Instagram and Twitter. There you can also see the thumbnail that Flo is going to design for this special as well. So for Coen Brother Things, look forward to that. And I hope you enjoyed the intro.
What should be on that cover? Because I don't think I should put them on there. I think it should be pictures of their movies, no?
Yeah, maybe movie posters or maybe iconic scenes from the movies.
Movie posters, that's interesting.
I think movie posters would be a cool thing.
Well,
but then it would kind of break with the rest of
it
the
would
specials.
Break.
But
I thought about like finding scenes where they all look in the middle, like I always do with the special episodes.
Yeah.
We'll see what actually happens. I have to see.
But yeah, thank you for listening. Maybe tell us what your favorite Coen Brother movie is. Maybe tell us what you missed. We love to hear from people in the comment sections. And thank you so much for listening. And we will be back with another regular episode next week.
All right.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.